welcome a bit until more people come in. It's probably best to watch this on YouTube, wherever you are right now, because I think Facebook is fine too, but on YouTube usually it's easier to leave a comment in the chat. So if you have any questions, let me know on Plato, and I'll get to them at the end. So before we begin, here's a quote from Aristotle. Dia to thamatsein hoi anthropoi kai nun kai to proton arxanto philosophein. This is from Aristotle's Metaphysics in the first book. Through wonder, dia to thamatsein, through wandering, man began to philosophize, or human beings began to philosophize, both now and in the beginning. So it's through wonder, through amazement, through being perplexed. And this sense of wonder is also found, of course, already with Aristotle's teacher, with Plato. In the dialogue Theaetetus, we find the following quote: Malagar philosophu tuto to pathos to thamatsein, ugar ale ache philosophias haute, kai eoken hoten irin thamantos engonon thesas u kakos genealogein. For this is an experience which is characteristic of a philosopher, or rather, this is the passion or the suffering, to pathos. This is what the philosopher has to suffer. And this is to thamatsein. This is wandering, to be perplexed. Ugar ale ache philosophias aute. This is where philosophy begins and nowhere else. So I will not translate the rest, which is a reference to Iris as the child of Thomas. But instead, let's just leave it at that it is not only that is only in wonder where philosophy begins and has always begun and will continue to begin. But of course, this is only where philosophy begins. So, and we should not conflate this sense of wonder with awe or being inspired by something sublime. Instead, there is an initial perplexion. We are perplexed by something rather almost seemingly benign. For example, the question, what is virtue? Or what is justice? What is virtue? That's the question of Plato's dialogue Meno, which leads to the politeia. And what is justice? What is the good of the polis? That is the question of Plato's dialogue Politeia, often translated as the Republic. So, such a simple question can spark the dialogue of the Politeia and lead to the establishment of the Kallipolis, of the beautiful city. We should probably refrain from translating Kallipolis, the beautiful city, as ideal city, because we're not dealing here with a blueprint for an idealized utopia, but instead for the place where philosophy itself comes into its own, and in its coming into its own, it can bring about what it has to do, which is to unify being and thinking, so that the nomos of the cosmos is alive and breathes through also as the nomos of the earth. So this initial wonder, I think, is fundamental and crucial whenever we begin to read, especially the Greeks. We should not attack a dialogue by Plato by our preconceived opinions or notions that we already might have about Plato or so-called Platonism. Instead, we should bracket and begin to read as if we come to this in a good sense of the word, in a naive sense. We begin to read without knowing yet what the Republic will tell us. We read the text, and we'll do this also in this way at the course, without any preconceived notion about philosophy. There's something that I've noticed about Plato, and I've been reading the Greeks for decades, is that when we consider, whoever considers Plato, for example, maybe especially with Plato, it is never the case that we find a complete Plato. We either find Plato the logician, or Plato together with Socrates as the philosopher of dialogue, or we find the post-structuralist Heideggerian critique of Plato on quote-unquote Platonistic metaphysics, or we find Neoplatonism, which is sort of a reductive interpretation of Plato by Plotinus, or we find an Aristotelian critique of Plato, or we find maybe sometimes reference to myth in Heidegger, in Plato, but not ever really taken into consideration that you cannot separate Plato the myth maker from Plato the philosopher, from Plato the logician. Yeah? So I will try in the course that's now starting in about 18 days to bring together the Plato of logic, but also Plato the historian, Plato the myth maker of such myths as the vision of in Book 10, and the myth maker of such myths as the myth of the cave. So, I would like to invite you, hence, to join the course, which is now open for enrollment. You can find the link in the description of this video and also in the chat. If you have questions on the course or on Plato, let me know. I'll be here maybe another 15 minutes or so. And so if you have questions specifically on the course, let me know and I'll get back to you at the end. So if you do decide to enroll, then follow the link, and I'll now describe what the course looks like on the inside. If you have time for the seminars, then you should sign up for the seminar tier, which is usually what most people do. We'll be meeting 10 times in total, beginning January the 20th. And we finish at some point towards the end of March. 23rd of March is the final seminar. I lead the seminars, so these are Zoom seminars. These are live, obviously, always from 6 to 8 p.m. UK time on a Saturday. That's 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm leading the seminars. There's enough time to have to ask your questions if you have any questions for me, or also, of course, to meet the others. What we do at the seminars is that you get, we do about 1 or 2 breakout sessions per seminar. So that means that you discuss, you work in a group of maybe 3 to 4 people, and you get a couple of questions. When I taught philosophy still at university, I used to ask whenever it was Plato, and usually it was Plato, obviously, as an introductory course at the first term, first year student. And sometimes I would ask them, why are you here? And they were perplexed, but not in the good philosophical sense perplexed. Very often they were perplexed because they couldn't quite make out if that was relevant for the exam and why I'm wasting their time with such a nonsensical question. But what is it then, this perplexion, this philosophical perplexion in the beginning, that triggers philosophy? We are amazed in the beginning that something is at all. Yeah? That something is at all. And that's not the modern question of Leibniz. Why is there something rather than nothing? That's quite a different question. That something is at all. That's the initial perplexion. But philosophy must then strive to paint grey with grey, as Hegel says more than 2,000 years after Plato, which means to bring to the fore the contours and the shapes of what is at stake, of the forms. So, let me perhaps, so if you do take the seminars, this is the tier that you should choose. You could also choose the payment plan. And of course, if you'd like to do private sessions with me, we have a couple of those left. In addition to the 10 seminars, 5 sessions with me here, or 8 sessions with me here. Usually this is really ideal for anyone who's perhaps working on a longer piece on, say, Plato or anything adjacent, or if you perhaps are working on a book or another project, etc., or you just simply want to dialogue in an even more intense manner, then these sessions are for you. We usually meet for about 60 minutes, maybe sometimes up to 90 or so, depending on the, on our mood, shall we say. And let me show you what this looks like on the inside. So, well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a question here about, whether or not there's a proto-Trinitarian thinking. I always have an issue with proto because, one can always sneak something in, In hindsight, everything is proto to everything else. Maybe more pertinent in Plato is that he does introduce to a wider audience also the immortality of the soul. And that perhaps is of more significant. And we'll discuss that especially towards the end. So let me show you what this looks like on the inside. When you enroll, this is what you find. Maybe I'll show you this here first. Secondary reading. So the text I recommend.
But it's also indicated with the first word is, of course,
here you can see me walking down the Piraeus.
at the time.
I haven't mentioned this before yet. I was actually in Athens to record these videos. And
this is the first word of Plato's Politeia, the work in which the entirety of being is at stake.
I think it's because I'm live
Phenomena
streaming the quality
against
at the beginning is
sophistry,
a bit lower here.
while
So
at
as
the
you can
same
see,
time
you
upholding
probably see
the
it behind me. This
realm.
is the first time I traveled to Athens
Welcome
after
to the second lecture.
decades
We're considering
of
now
reading
books 2 and 3,
the Greeks.
and trying to understand what
So
Plato means
I
by the
was
guardians of
fortunate
the polis.
to be
The polis is
finally to be able
advising
to
the inner
travel
eye of the participants of the dialogue, and also for us as listeners
to
and
Athens
readers.
and also to Delphi. I
Polis is
recorded
arising
the
not
lecture
as a
on
fantasy, not a
the myth or the
technocratic
vision of actually
blueprint, not a
in Delphi,
utopian
just
fever
outside or just in
dream
front
that
of the
strives towards a pre-posited end
temple
goal
of
history.
Apollo, and here with a
There
view
is
of
no
the
history.
Parthenon. I also
Plato,
recorded a couple of
anyways.
lectures.
Quite the
This one, for
opposite. The
example,
city
here.
rises to the inner.
The myth of the cave, close by, around where supposedly Socrates was imprisoned. So, oh yeah, by the way, there's a bonus lecture which is not available on my YouTube, on a public YouTube, but only is a private video, which is another 1.5 hours in addition on the analogies of the line and of the sun and the allegory of the cave. So perhaps I should also briefly mention what we will be discussing so that you get an idea for what the course is about. We'll be meeting 10 times. We'll be discussing basically all 10 books and the major topics, such as the question, of course, of justice, which begins the entire dialogue. But also the education, the periagoge, the turning, and also the paideia of the philosopher guardians, or the so-called philosopher kings. We'll discuss the theory of the soul, the tripartite soul, and how that relates to the 3 castes, or the 3 classes, perhaps, of the Callipolis, of the beautiful city. We also, of course, will be discussing the analogies of the sun and of the line, as well as the myth of the cave. And in the course, I'll actually tell you more why I think it is a myth rather than an allegory. So, obviously, we must also discuss the noble lie, as we will do, and the anacyclosis of the forms of government. So Plato does not forget about history. The first word of the Politeia is kateven. Kateven, I think, would be a better pronunciation. I don't know. But in any event, it means I walked down. And I walked down from where? Well, from the realm of ideas, from the idea of the good. From the sun, I walked down to not just the Piraeus, but as a matter of fact, I walked back down to the realm of ethics, of ethos, that which grounds our living together well. The movement that will trace again and again throughout the Politeia is the movement of anabasis and catabasis, so moving upwards and moving downwards. There is not ever a pure just arrival at higher enlightenment without a return. This is what also the Politeia signifies, and especially when we get to the discussion of the so-called anacyclosis of the different forms of government, and when Plato discusses the democracy and tyranny, and of course aristocracy, which is how we should think of the Callipolis, an aristocratic regime. This is when we will realize that Plato does precisely not forget about history and the movement of history, and quite the opposite. He is also a historical thinker, and it will take philosophy quite some time to catch up to that. Again, it is Giambattista Vico who will actually be quite a have quite a Platonist understanding of history.
Through this, making us aware of our
here you can see me.
And
this is the lecture on Paideia.
Orientation.
So I was on my own. I didn't have a team with me or anything. This is just me with my modest means of doing this. I did have a good microphone and of course a decent enough camera. So I made the effort to find the perfect place where I could film this, and also to fly to Greece for a week, set everything up, then sit down and work about 6 or 7 hours every single day, recording, re-recording, editing, uploading, etc., etc., etc. So when you enroll, even if you don't have time, let's say, for the seminars, then every enrollment, as you should know, supports the work on this channel. I am fully self-funded. There are no patron saints. There are no big whales behind this entire project. I don't ever ask for money, but I need bread and wine as well. So what I do is we offer courses here at the Halcyon Academy. And this is now the 5th year. Actually, we started in 2020. It's now 2024, so we're going into our 5th year now. We began with a course on scolaire, on leisure. This is something else we'll be discussing, which is always forgotten, that there is no philosophy without scolaire. In scolaire, in this measure of sufficiency, philosophy and the polis ground themselves. So now, after years of preparation, we can finally move towards Plato and ask what is. Of course, I should mention also that we will be discussing, of course, mimesis and the banning of the poets. Why and for what reason is it that Plato bans the poets? And what does this have to do with art in general, how he understands art, and with so-called mimesis? So, all the major topics will be discussed of the Republic, but we'll be looking at this for the most part as a work of metaphysics and ontology. And we will understand that Plato here again brings together the move upwards and the move downwards. And it is a highly dialectical movement, we first consider so-called justice, dikaiosyne. By the way, we will also be trying to provide or find new ways of translating some of the main Greek words. One of them being, of course, dikaiosyne, which is usually translated as justice. But as we shall see at the course, maybe justice is not the best initial translation. We'll see that appropriateness is a much better translation, at least in the beginning, so that we don't associate with justice too much of how we understand perhaps justice today. So if you have any sort of project that you'd like me perhaps to be your philosophical guide, then you're really most cordially invited to get the one-on-one sessions, to book the one-on-one sessions with me, either 5 or 8, depending how much time you have. If you'd like to join the seminars, then this one is for you. I think if you can make at least 5 of the seminars over the 10 weeks, then you should book that one. We'll be recording all sessions, so if you can't make it to any of them, there will be a recording up on Teachable, which is the platform that we use. You get indefinite access to the course. That is to say, if you enroll once, these lectures will be available to you ad infinitum, and they will never be made public on YouTube, etc. I should also mention that if you actually do enroll with the seminars or the philosophical dialogue private tutorial sessions with me, then at the end, of course, you also have access to the seminars then, but at the end you'll be able to present your own talk at the pro seminar. You find a playlist of all those pro seminars on my YouTube channel right here, if you are on YouTube at the moment, so that if you'd like to present, you can see for yourself what it's like. You can see the fruits of the hard labor of the people. And here's why I do believe that the current university system is dead, is at a dead end, and that it cannot really be rejuvenated. We shouldn't give up on it, but we should also not fool ourselves and think that it is not entirely rotten. And there are many reasons for that, and one of them is to do with sort of technocratic ideology and rule, which uses different ideologies towards its ends. But at the same time, and also, of course, the hyper-consumerist, hyper-capitalist structure of the modern university. But also very often, let's just be honest, education is wasted on the young. Young people should, of course, learn how to read and write, but then make their own way. And once they get to the age of 30, as Nietzsche said, one is a child in high culture at the age of 30. That's perhaps when, of course, there are exceptions, right? Some are really already fully present when they're very young, but for many this is not the case. And those who maybe feel that now is the time that they should finally start reading these texts, this is why we offer this. This is one of the reasons. The other reason is, of course, that I do believe that this is the future of education. And yes, so as Dawson here points out, you can find quite a couple of poems by Dawson on here. Many of us leave the university in search of wisdom. It is rather unfortunate that what you're being taught to embrace at university, especially when it comes to philosophy. Well, I mean, not especially when it comes to philosophy, but which is especially destructive with regard to philosophy, is that we don't begin with a sense of wonder, but instead we begin with a sense of knowing it all, of being of detachment, of everything being already clear and obvious, and all we do is quibble about whether this ism or that ism applies to this or that period in Plato, instead of, again, as I did ask my young students quite often, why are you here? And when I was in Warwick, once a student said to me, is this relevant for the exam? By which he meant to say, come on, get to it now. We don't have all day. I have to say that it was quite different at Birkbeck College. I was a teaching fellow at Birkbeck College from 2018 to 2021. I left when that wasn't going anywhere, to be honest. And also, the Halcyon Guild and Academy was already flourishing at the time, so I was able to leave. But I have to say the students at Birkbeck were different because they were a bit older and they did have a bit of life experience, and they were not all just there for some sort of career motive. They were looking for something. So when I did ask then, why are you here? You could hear quite different answers. I'm looking for meaning. I was suicidal. My life makes no sense. I have a corporate job. I'm 56 years old now. I'm in finance. I work in the city of London, that is, which is the finance district, and I do I do find something is lacking in society and in my life, etc., etc. So those were a bit different answers, and these are usually the answers that people give when they come to these courses here, and you will find that. Yes, there will be people who are as young as 18 or 19, some 25. They will be quite remarkable, though, else they wouldn't be showing up. And the oldest ones I think we had were about somewhere between 60, 65, and a professor emeritus of mathematics, I won't mention his name now, was almost 75. And this is something else that doesn't happen quite often anymore, does it? Where generations come together and begin a dialogue. And very often we find that we do have, quite differing views on everything. But so far, we've had very civil discourses throughout the years. And it is possible, because again, there will be people there from Europe. There will be people there from America, from Canada, from South Africa. I think this time we also have someone from Australia, so that's a bit far. Not in terms of maybe culture or so, but just in terms of time zone. So let's find out if they can make it. But anyways, the time zone is set in such a way that it's easy more or less for anyone who's in Europe and anyone who's in Northern America to come. We do have a regular from Mexico also, so it's a unique experience just in that sense. Also in the sense that there's no longer this division, because right now I can read your comments, but I don't really know what they are on because there's a time lag in between. And I don't see you, I can't hear you. When we do meet on Zoom, as much as I detest Zoom, still, it allows me to see a classroom of people. Most of them usually have their cameras on, and we can have a discussion. You can ask me questions on, so you've done some of the reading, you will have maybe listened to the lecture, you come in, the lectures are not very long, the lectures are about half an hour each, maybe 45 minutes are the longest. So that gives you enough time to listen to them a couple of times during the week. You come in, you ask your questions, and you also then discuss your thoughts with others. And again, most important is, however much you already think you know about Plato, forget it all. Instead, try and see what happens when you read as though you don't know yet where this is going. You don't know yet what is being drawn out. This might just trigger a completely different experience of anamnesis. Yeah, I'll type this in the chat. Anamnesis. So, what we have to understand is that when we remember something, we don't just have memories that are subjective or personal. We can tap into reach into and draw out from. I don't like the term collective memory, so that's not what I mean. Instead, it is a deep and profound memoria in which we participate, in which weaves through us. It's not collective, because collective means it's, again, a million subjects having memories subconsciously somewhere stored away. That's not what's occurring. I think that we live through remembering. And reading a text such as the Politeia in an original manner, which is to say, by forgetting what you believe you know about Plato or philosophy, you can reach into and draw out from this realm of anamnesis, which is in some sense ever present, but always temporarily structuring itself out. Yeah. So this is the way we're going to read this. So when you join, which I hope you will do, for the few places that we have left, then come with this sense of wonder. This is not school. This is not university. You will not be graded. You will not be marked. We will have discussions, and I will be strict about, certain things. But you're not there to become a Platonist. You're not there to become a Plato academic who can quibble about and quote all the right references, etc., and all these boring things that no one cares about. No. This is what the machine will make you do. The machine can produce wonderful scholarship. But what we're trying to do here is to reach into that primordial, profound memoria, of which we are also, not only, but also because the future is also open. This is how we can unify our everyday selves with the self of the higher realm. So, thank you very much, Harris, by the way, as always. I'm just seeing this now. Upcycle Club. We will be upcycling, cycling up to the realm of the ideas and cycling down again also. Happy New Year to you too, Harris. So yes, Happy New Year, Dali. Beau Fernel. May it be all the merrier, your new year, all of your new years. So many new years, it's not just one new year, it's 1,000 new years, all at once occurring and intermingling. So, yes, this is what I think I wanted to say tonight. I hope that you can join us. I think we have about, I'm not certain, maybe about 20 people in the seminars so far. So, and if you'd like to, and as I said before, I don't ever really mention this that much, but the work here on this channel also needs to be supported. My work needs to be supported. I need to eat and eat bread and wine, etc. The best way to do this is by signing up for one of my courses. If you don't have time for the seminars, please just join the self-study tier and be content to know that you are a patron, and noblesse oblige, obviously. You are a patron of the arts and of philosophia in this gift economy. 10 seminars, if you can make, let's say, about 5 or so, then if you can make all of them, perfect. But if you don't have time for all of them, if you can make 5, then this is for you. We will record the seminars. Those will be made available to the group. So if you can't make all of the seminars, that's fine. Just listen back to the recordings. So this is also if you're depending on, people have different ways of learning. All lecture notes or all transcripts are made available so you can read. Some of you will maybe want to see the videos, which look like this here. This is one of the crazy
appearing
ones.
like, in order to have,
I think around midnight I recorded that.
is
one.
only one initial appearance.
The
logical
then you can
concepts
watch the video
that
if you need the visual,
human
or just listen to the MP3, which
Lecture
you find
9 on
here. And I will provide the pages for you to read in Plato's Republic every week. I mean the page numbers. I won't provide the text. I recommend to get the Cambridge University Press translation from about 20 years ago. That's a pretty good one. And and sorry, just one second. And if you, here we are. And if perhaps you are working on any sort of a project where you think listening to me, hearing what I've got to say, you think that you might benefit from being in dialogue more directly than just the seminars, one-on-one sessions, then book the private sessions with me. Again, this especially helps me keep the lights on and continue the work here. We're going into our 5th year here. We now have a faculty of, including me, I think we're 5 now. Plenty of more courses coming this year. This is the first one. And I'll be bringing in a few more people to do short afternoon sessions. There might be one in February by a very fascinating young scholar from Cambridge. Maybe I should also mention this briefly, that I will be giving a talk at the Cambridge, at the Center for Platonist Studies, or the Studies of Platonism, at the University of Cambridge, I think either in late February or March. I will be speaking on Plato as a myth maker, on the relationship between mythos and logos in Plato. And so that might be also recorded. So if there is a recording of that, I will upload that here if I'm allowed to do that. I will also be interviewing Douglas Hedley, who is professor of philosophy at University of Cambridge, on his new book, actually, which is here, on the Cambridge Platonists. I'm looking forward to that. This will be in a couple of weeks, so this will also be uploaded soon. So this is a year really of the Greeks. This is the first course in Greek philosophy. This will be on Plato's Republic. And my other course on Greek philosophy, Greek thinking, will be on Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics later in summer, I think in late August. So now I think I've gotten to everything that I can more or less. I have translated Thalmatsane, so I think I've responded to that. Yes, so thank you all very much for being here and for listening. If you know anyone who's interested in Plato, in philosophy, in the wonder of existence, that there is something at all to begin with, then perhaps share this video with them and make them aware of this course. Even if you can't make it, perhaps you know someone else who might be able to make it and might want to come, might want to be with us at the course and be also along this path which will lead out of the cave and back into the cave also. So this will not be your standard Plato course. We won't look at Plato as the great enlightener who brings us enlightenment through leaving the cave. There are dark moments in Plato. Let's not forget, he does mention that the philosopher king rules by his superior knowledge and understanding of the shadows. So we will be looking at the relationship also between, let's say, reality, or actuality rather, reality and the shadows, between, to put it in more technical terms but also shorter, between seeming and being, between mere appearance and what is. And it's not so simple in Plato. He does not deny the value, as it were, of this ephemeral realm, but instead he tries to save, as what philosophy tries to do, to save the phenomena, to anchor them. So, again, thank you very much indeed. If you are, well, wherever you are, you can enroll now via the link in the description of this video or here in the live chat. This is the one. It leads you to this website here, to Teachable, which is our partner platform. We will begin on the 20th of January. There's a couple of places left in the seminar, so if you actually would like to join, this is the best time. 10 seminars in total, all seminar dates you can find here. We've got a good group together already, but I'd love for you to join and meet the others. Excellent. So please do share this video also with anyone else. Feel free to leave a comment afterwards, leave a donation if you can't make it to the course. Perhaps sign up here or sign up there. 5 private sessions or 8 private sessions with me, in addition to the 10 seminars, so we can make this a very intense time. You'll find quite a few recordings of student essays here also on. So wherever you see there's a dash and it says something like by someone else, not my name, but someone else's name, then this is usually a former student, or rather I usually say course participant. I don't think of you as students, I think of you as participants in my course, and participants in the wonder of existence, in the wonder that there is something at all. And of course, philosophy, again, cannot stay there. One has to leave the cave in order to return to the cave. You see how this works? One has to leave the shadows behind to see the shadows again, but then see them anew, see them differently. So, I hope to see you very soon. 20th of January is when we begin, 18 days. If you have any questions and you're not listening to this live, then please just leave a comment. I will get back to you as soon as I can. That should be it from me. Thank you very much indeed. Good night.